What if everything you think you know about God is backwards? What if the distance you feel isn't because God's far away, but because you're looking in the wrong direction? I'm going to tell you something that changed how I see everything, and by the end of this, you're going to understand God in a way that makes everything else make sense. Look, most people have one of two problems with God. Either they don't believe He exists, or they believe He exists but feel like He doesn't care. They pray and feel like they're talking to the ceiling. They look at their life and see no evidence of divine intervention. They see suffering in the world and think, where is God in all this? And honestly, I get it. I've been there. That feeling of being completely alone in a universe that doesn't care. That sense that if God exists, He's either asleep or He's ignoring you. But here's what I learned. The problem wasn't God's absence. The problem was my understanding of what God actually is. See, most of us inherited some version of God from childhood. Maybe it's the old man in the sky. Maybe it's the cosmic judge waiting to catch you messing up. Maybe it's the distant watchmaker who built everything and walked away. Or maybe it's the magical genie who's supposed to fix all your problems if you just pray hard enough. None of those are the real God. And as long as you're searching for those versions, you're going to feel disconnected. Ancient texts teach something most people never hear. They say God is the living, the self-subsisting, the all-sustaining. Let me break down what that actually means. Self-subsisting means God doesn't depend on anything else to exist. Everything else needs something. You need oxygen. Oxygen needs atoms. Atoms need quantum fields. But God just is. That's why ancient texts call Him the necessary existence, while everything else is contingent, dependent, temporary. Think about it. Right now, your heart is beating without you thinking about it. Your cells are doing billions of chemical reactions every second. The Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. The Sun is burning millions of tons of hydrogen every second. None of that runs on autopilot. There's no cosmic cruise control. All sustaining means God isn't just the first cause who started everything and left. He's the present cause, right now, this second. The only reason anything continues to exist is because He's actively sustaining it. If God stopped paying attention to you for one instant, you wouldn't just die. You'd cease to have ever existed. That changes everything. Because when people say, "Where's God?" they're usually imagining Him somewhere else, up in heaven, off doing God stuff. But ancient wisdom teaches God is closer to you than your jugular vein. Not physically closer, but existentially closer. You exist through Him. Your consciousness is possible because of His consciousness. Your life is sustained by His life. You're not separate from God trying to reach Him. You're a reflection of divine attributes, temporarily existing through His will. So, if God is that close, that present, that real, why don't we feel it? Here's what I've learned. It's not because God is hidden, it's because we're covered. Think of it like a mirror covered in dust. The mirror's ability to reflect never went away. It just can't fulfill its purpose until the dust is removed. Every human soul is created with the capacity to reflect divine attributes. That's what we're designed for. That's our actual purpose. Not career success, not accumulating stuff, not even happiness in the way most people think about it. We're created to know God, to love God, to reflect divine qualities. Everything else, all your struggles, all your experiences, they're curriculum for that purpose. But here's the thing. Most people are so covered in layers of worldly attachment, ego, and distraction that the mirror can't reflect. It's not broken, it's just covered. And this is where it gets really interesting. Ancient texts teach that God is both immanent and transcendent. He's closer than your thoughts, but also beyond all comprehension. He has attributes of similarity to human qualities, metaphorically, but he also has attributes of absolute transcendence. For instance, God has knowledge, but his knowledge isn't like your knowledge. You learn things. You can be surprised. You can forget. God's knowledge is complete, eternal, encompassing everything that was, is, and ever will be, with no gap between the knower and the known. God has power, but his power isn't limited by physical laws or logic or possibility. When ancient texts say, "be," and it is, that's literal creation, and will are the same thing for God. God has mercy, but his mercy isn't emotional like human mercy. It's not feeling bad for someone. It's the active manifestation of divine grace that brings things into existence, sustains them, guides them, and ultimately brings them to their perfection. Now, here's where everything clicks. God is the source of all existence, all consciousness, all perfection. Then what's the purpose of creating anything at all? Ancient wisdom teaches something profound. God created because he desired to be known, not because he needed anything, but because his nature is to manifest his perfection. And humans, we're created specifically for the recognition, love, and obedience of God. That's not some religious rule. That's describing our actual function, like saying a seed's purpose is to grow. But here's what most people miss. Knowing God isn't just intellectual knowledge. It's not about memorizing attributes or studying theology, it's experiential recognition. It's insight so deep that it transforms you. There's a huge difference between knowing about someone and actually knowing them. You can know all the facts about a person, their resume, their achievements, and still have no real relationship with them. Real knowing comes through experience and through interaction, through seeing how they respond to you. The same is true with God. You can know all the theological concepts and still feel no connection. But when you actually experience divine response, when you see answered prayer, when you feel that presence that's closer than your own thoughts, that's when intellectual knowledge becomes experiential certainty. And that's what changes people. Not information, transformation. Ancient texts describe 3 levels of certainty. Knowledge by inference, that's intellectual understanding. Knowledge by observation, that's seeing the evidence. And knowledge by experience, that's direct connection. Most people never get past level 1. Some reach level 2. Very few reach level 3. But level 3 is possible, not just for prophets or saints, for anyone who genuinely seeks it. So, how do you go from intellectual belief to experiential connection? How do you clean the mirror? First, you have to understand what's covering it. For most people, it's 3 things. 1. World worship. When your heart's deepest attachment is to temporary things, career, money, status, comfort, pleasure, you've installed an idol. You're bowing to creation instead of Creator. And here's the thing about idols. They always disappoint, because nothing in creation can satisfy a soul that was designed for connection with the infinite. 2. Ego. When you think you're self-sufficient, when you believe your success comes from your own power, when you take credit for everything, you've cut yourself off from the source. It's like a light bulb taking credit for electricity. 3. Distraction. When your mind is constantly scattered, jumping from screen to screen, thought to thought, never still, never present, you can't perceive anything subtle, and divine connection is subtle. It doesn't shout, it whispers. So what do? You start by recognizing your absolute dependence. Every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of existence is pure gift. You're not self-made. You're not even self-sustained. Recognizing this isn't humiliation, it's reality. And weirdly, it's liberating. Then you turn your attention inward, not to your ego, but to your deeper nature. Ancient texts teach that every soul, before coming into physical existence, testified to God's lordship. That testimony is still there, buried under all the noise. When you quiet down enough, you can hear it, and then you engage in remembrance, not mechanical repetition, conscious awareness. When you eat, you remember who provides. When you succeed, you remember who enabled. When you struggle, you remember who tests. When you rest, you remember who sustains. This isn't about becoming religious in the conventional sense. It's about becoming real, about living in alignment with actual reality instead of the illusion of independence. When you start living like this, everything shifts, not all at once, gradually, but unmistakably. First, your relationship with suffering changes completely. When you understand that every trial is divine curriculum, specifically designed for your growth, you stop being a victim. You become a student. The question changes from "Why is this happening to me?" to "What is this teaching me?" Ancient texts teach that God tests those he loves, not to break them, but to reveal strength they didn't know they had, to polish the mirror, to remove the covering. Every difficulty is an opportunity for growth if you understand it correctly. Second, your prayers become real, not just asking for stuff, actual conversation. You start feeling responses, sometimes in changed circumstances, sometimes in changed heart, sometimes in insights that hit you out of nowhere, sometimes in help that comes through unexpected means. Here's something I learned. God responds to need, but also to sincerity. If you're just going through motions, you get nothing. But when you pray from genuine desperation, from authentic seeking, from real brokenness, you get response. Always. It might not be the response you wanted, but it's always the response you needed. Third, you start seeing divine attributes everywhere. In creation, in people, in your own faculties. You realize every parent's love for their child is a reflection of divine mercy. Every act of justice reflects divine justice. Every beautiful sunset is a display of divine artistry. Every moment of consciousness is participation in divine awareness. You're not seeing God directly. That's not possible for limited consciousness. But you're seeing his effects, his signs, his attributes manifested in countless ways, and that seeing becomes its own form of worship. Fourth, purpose becomes clear. You're not wandering anymore, wondering what you're supposed to do with your life. Your purpose is growth, character development, becoming a clearer reflection of divine attributes. Every situation becomes an opportunity for that. Every person you meet is a mirror showing you something about yourself. Every challenge is curriculum. And here's the beautiful part. When you align with that purpose, everything else falls into place. Not because life becomes easy, but because you understand what's happening and why. Now, I want to tell you something that might sound strange at first. Ancient texts teach that every soul has natural love for God. It's built in like a child's natural love for its mother. But here's what happens. That innate love gets transferred to other things. The restlessness you feel, the dissatisfaction even when you get what you want, the constant searching for something you can't quite name. That's your soul looking for its source. That's divine love displaced onto temporary substitutes. Every time you fall in love with another person, that's a reflection of the soul's love for God. Every time you're drawn to beauty, that's your soul responding to divine beauty. Every time you seek peace, you're seeking the peace that only comes from divine connection. The problem isn't the love. The love is good. The problem is when you think the creation can satisfy what only the Creator can fulfill. Think about it this way. A phone has no value without signal. It's just a piece of metal and glass. The signal is what makes it functional. You are the phone. God is the signal. You can exist without connection, but you can't function properly. You can't fulfill your purpose. You can't access your potential. When you're connected, everything works. Not perfectly, because you're still in the process of growth, but authentically. Purpose, with meaning, with the deep satisfaction that comes from doing what you were designed to do. And here's the thing that surprised me most. Loving God doesn't make you less human, it makes you more human. Because being human isn't about base desires or ego-driven ambition. Being human is about reflecting divine attributes: mercy, justice, knowledge, power, creativity, all of it. When you develop real love for God, you start loving creation properly too. Not obsessively, not destructively, but appropriately. You see people as fellow souls on a journey. You see nature as divine handiwork. You see your own life as opportunity for service. Look, I know this is a lot. If you're sitting there thinking, this sounds good in theory, but how does this actually work in real life? I get it. Here's what I'd say. Try it. Start paying attention. Start recognizing your dependence. Start turning your attention inward. Start having real conversations instead of mechanical prayers. And watch what happens. You might not feel anything at first. The mirror might be pretty dusty, but keep at it. Every moment of sincere seeking counts. Every genuine prayer is heard. Every real step is supported. Ancient wisdom teaches that if you take one step toward God, He takes 10 steps toward you. If you walk toward Him, He runs toward you. But you have to take that first step. You have to mean it. Because here's the ultimate truth. You were created for this. Not for the rat race. Not for accumulating stuff. Not for fleeting pleasures or temporary achievements. You were created to know the one who created you. To love the source of all love. To reflect the light that illuminates everything. Everything else? It's just noise. Distraction. Temporary. But this is permanent. This is real. This is what you're actually looking for even when you don't realize it. The question isn't whether God exists. The question is whether you're ready to actually connect with the God who's closer to you than you are to yourself. If you're ready, He's been waiting. Not like He needs you, but like you need Him. And that changes everything.